We started out this show, really. I think we really announced ourselves on the map with our strong hating on Hamilton way back in episode 2. So it's become something of a beat for us. So obviously when this story came out, that the Rockefeller Foundation has pledged $6 million to make sure that public school students from all across the country will be able to see Hamilton for just $10. We under the hashtag EduHam, we made sure to clock that. So what did you guys make of this story?
I mean, like, in some parts of the south side of Chicago, poverty rate is as high as 50%. Because of the way that we fund public schools, teachers cannot even afford books. They can afford desks. There are classrooms where kids just sit on the floor or stand up. It is literally impossible for impoverished kids to learn in many parts of this country. So knowing this, knowing the complete lack of resources, what is the logical thing to do? You have to take them to a play where a man dresses up like he's on a Sam Adams bottle and raps poorly about the Constitution.
Well, I believe it was David Roth who pointed out online on Twitter that this is the absolute endpoint of having education reform, quote unquote, handled by just a bunch of clueless rich who are totally disconnected from any of the actual issues. So every ed reform principle is about like appifying or marketizing, the same they do in their dumb jobs. That is the reason that they're unjustly, obscenely remunerated. And one of the things these assholes love, besides apps and such, is Hamilton. And so, sure, you can't eat, you don't really have a fixed address, you're surrounded by violence in your day-to-day life that make it almost impossible for you to concentrate on your education. But once you see Thomas Jefferson breakdance, your love of learning will be lifelong. I'm just hoping that within 2 years, the NYPD truant office is doing no-knock raids and pepper spraying kids and dragging them in paddy wagons to their mandatory performance in Hamilton.
Yeah,
It's like they're like zapping. They're loading them into the Robert Rogers Theater with cattle prods. Get in there! You got to watch Hamilton.
Yeah, Hamilton is like Triumph of the Will for people who wear lanyards for a living. Like, they see it and they're like, oh my god, this is the pinnacle of the human spirit.
I am looking forward to the inevitable remake of Precious, based on the novel Push by Sapphire, where at the end, Precious's class is given a chance to see Hamilton by a benevolent rich donor, and it cures her AIDS.
It's like faith healing.
There is a faith healing element to this, and again, we touched on this back in episode 2, and not to draw from the same well twice, but there is something about Hamilton that the kind of, I don't know, liberal professional and media elite in this country find just sort of indescribably edifying to them personally, and of course by extension to all of the people they project their benevolence upon as well.
So these people, these elite people in media and in the economy and in politics, they're watching as the entire edifice of their own legitimacy as elites has been totally destroyed at this point. And they know that confidence in them by the masses of people is completely gone. The mechanisms of bettering people's lives that used to make these people feel like they deserved their spot on this hierarchy because they were making people's lives better are broken, and lives are just getting worse. And they've literally retreated into a fantasy realm where they're rapping with Hamilton, or they're on the small council with Tyrion Lannister, or they're trading Bomos with Frank Cards. Felix made the joke about St. Elsewhere last time, about staring into the globe. They're all that. Like, they're having a giant, massive nervous breakdown, and they're all just staring into snow globes.
My mentions are a dumpster fire. I'm not a crier, but the tears are running down my face. It's a disgrace. I'm Dr. Vox, and I'm Hamilton.
Felix, did you punch the Bursar, sir?
Yes, sir, I punched the Bursar, sir. But, sir, the CPD shot my student 48 times or more. But it's all right because I'm going to see Hamilton with the lights so bright in the sky. Oh my, an opportunity brought to you by Citibank, my guy.
I personally have no need for Hamilton because I already watch Turn, Washington Spies on HBO. Oh no, AMC. And that already has all the same characters from Hamilton, but they're the right race, though.
They don't rap.
Yeah, well, but there's intrigue, you know, and they're just like
Watching a show about the founding fathers where they're white and don't rap makes you racist.
You're right. It would be a lot better with everything is better with rapping. Really,
you're right, and it has to be rap like that where it's you just
with no flow whatsoever.
Yeah. You know the best like 90s rappers were the guys that released albums with like 98 tracks and everything was misspelled, like it was Earth ERTH, Fire FYRE.
No, we've cracked the Hamilton code. So yeah, no, a lot of lucky students will be getting the most exclusive experience, you know, anyone can possibly get, which is to see Hamilton for $10. Thank you, Rockefeller Foundation. By the way, there will be no more arts programs in any school in America other than the Exeter boarding school.
And we will dedicate ourselves to making sure that all of the decent public schools in New York City are rigidly segregated. But you get to watch the hip-hop musical.
Well, in other news about things that are getting better, especially in the realm of education, another news story that I clocked this week was Hillary Clinton announced a plan in which, we all know the student loan debt crisis is like a huge albatross that is just like tied around the necks of our generation and is probably going to slow, growth and like home ownership and any kind of like economic stability for an entire generation, basically. And Hillary Clinton has actually found a way out of this. And what she has proposed, I'm not making this up, is to forgive the student loans of entrepreneurs or of college students who would go on to become entrepreneurs. Did you guys see the story? Because I mean, this is not a joke. I know it sounds like it's some grim, awful thing we'd make up, but it's actually 100% true. And what I want to know is who is going to keep track of who's an entrepreneur and who's not? Like, what counts as an entrepreneur?
If you have tweeted at least 4 times in a given 6-month period about how homeless people in public are unacceptable and someone needs to fix it, you're an entrepreneur.
I mean, this does remind me of Peter Thiel's thing a while ago where he was talking about paying kids not to go to college and just like go into startups or whatever.
Yeah, but that's smart. I mean, like, it's not like it's a huge bubble where people get a lot of money for, like we've seen many times before in this exact sector of the economy, and it collapses horribly and people lose their houses because they invested all their money in things called like invent tech. No, it's like a good idea. And when I look at the App Store, every day, of course. I just go in there and I'm trying to download more apps. I've actually like bought more phones so I can store more apps. I have all the iPhones. They're all filled with apps. But it's like, it's not enough. It's not enough apps. There aren't nearly enough. And this solves 2 problems. Not enough apps and too much student debt.
But, I mean, this is particularly ghoulish because, back in the Democratic primary, one of Bernie Sanders' big things that he was knocked for repeatedly was his call for free college education.
We're going to have colleges and universities tuition-free in the United States of America.
For like a universal college, like basically free college education at any state university, right? Hillary and a lot of the other Democrats and her supporters said that this was in some way not progressive or hypocritical on Bernie's part because it would essentially be offering free college to rich kids and thus, I don't know, taking away from poor kids in some way, even though that they would also go to the same college.
Well, and rich kids don't go to state colleges anyway. It's stupid. It was always it was just, that they were sitting in some bullpen somewhere and they're like, okay, well, we can't endorse this, but how do we say that it's bad in a way that doesn't make us look like pieces of shit we are? And one of the geniuses she pays $5 million a year to goes like, oh, we'll say it's we don't want Donald Trump's kids to get free education. They're like, fuck yes. And they all celebrated with some Michelobes.
Hey.
It's just cynical bullshit.
I mean, and it's totally cynical because what this plan to forgive the student debt, essentially what she's saying is that we should forgive the student debt of the people that are most likely to actually be able to pay off their student loans.
Look, a lot of people can say that like making apps is sort of the hobby of rich kids because it's a type of bullshit exercise where you think, oh, I'm not going to make any money for at least 2 years, and only someone who's extremely rich can afford to do that or even be that deluded. But you're wrong, and most app makers pulled themselves up by their bootstraps. You look at all the people who made apps. Elon Musk invented like several apps, and he was so poor growing up that he couldn't even afford a normal name.
I have to say that I'm very excited about the prospect of kids in high school now adding app creation to the bunch of extracurriculars and shit that their parents are going to make them do so that they can pay off college after they get done. But since they're all like 17 years old, it's going to be 5 million apps about how to, keep your boner from being showing in science class or something.
But back to like on a serious note, this to me, like, doesn't this kind of remind you of like this kind of Cass Sunstein like nudge-ocracy that is now this very much in vogue now?
There are no jobs for any of these fuckers. The only job anyone's going to have is if they can fucking scam a bunch of venture capital dipshits into pouring money into their useless product before its inevitable uselessness is revealed. So let's get these idiots to do that instead of just going back to their hometowns and doing a bunch of OxyContin.
Yeah, no, but it's like it's so depressing to me because it just shows like just a winnowing down of people's dreams and expectations, where it's just like they've given up on the idea that government or the state can offer the means to sort of change your life or better yourself in some way or have a greater amount of freedom and stability and control over your life. But instead, what it can offer is these kind of pseudo benevolent management of people that we can't help these people. What we can do is just kind of poke and prod them into the only acceptable sort of slots that are left for people to fill.
Yeah, that's it. It's going to be awesome. Just like we were talking about a number of episodes back, just a H.G. Wells hellscape of blackened, pitted, ruined infrastructure of cars on blocks and people fighting and fucking in the street and eating the last few flaming hot Cheetos that they can scrounge out of gutted Kroger's. And then in the middle of that, a few high-rises of honeycombed tech workers who are all living together in a horrific...
in a dorm
rooms fused to their computers.
Well, while Matt chooses to see the dark lining of the cloud, I actually choose to see the silvery insides of it. The collapse of individuality in a farly advanced and brutal late capitalist neoliberal system will make orgies the norm.
Because they have no fucking privacy.
Hell yeah.
Exactly.
You'll all be in one giant, like, circular couch and that looks out onto all of your monitors, and you never leave that. And so when you get horny, you just turn to your side and just put your dick into the nearest orifice.
Yeah, me and Jordan K. finna nut in a bitch.